Okay, we can start. Starting with a request, because we have seen many people here inside, but not all of you signed the attendances list. And this is very important for us because we have to assure with paper the participation in this workshop for the European Commission. So please sign the attendance papers. We can also give them to you now, right? So the ones that hasn't already signed, please do it as soon as possible. Thank you. Okay, so we can start. We are listening now to some duos. The first duo will be the VET duo, starting with Zoe Romano. She is a craftivist, digital and fabrication strategist, lecturer focused on social innovation, intersectorial technologies, open design. She is a consultant on R&D, teaches courses in various organizations and collaborates on EU-funded digital social innovation projects. She is the creator of interdisciplinarity, I can manage, artistic and research projects around textile and tech. So, Zoe, please.
Hi, nice to see you. I'm not sure if it's best to stay before the coffee or after the coffee. Now we are all nice and woken up. So it's a pleasure to be here and share some insights with academics and professionals from different backgrounds. Thanks for the Transition Consortium to inviting me here and contribute to this effort of understanding the new needs for training, and also to the European Commission to provide resources to research projects like this one, because I think it's very important to multiply the bridges to connect the gaps between disciplines and their framework. So really happy to be here and contribute. Let me see. That's not my... Oh, yes, here I am. So I will take a couple of minutes to introduce myself. I have a background in philosophy, and I work as a consultant and in circular transition. And I also, my way of learning is really alternating like the practice and the theory. I like a lot to dirty my hand in understanding how things work and also reflect upon them when it's the time. And in the past years, I mean, I've been in the field of interdisciplinarity since 20 years. Firstly, as a grassroots activist, and then in 2008, I had my first European-funded project, and it was about engaging with lifelong learning knowledge, and also it was focused on the digital pattern as the shared commons of fashion and collective branding. So at the beginning, 2008, thinking about digital pattern in fashion was somehow like weird, and so I had my first like getting in touch with fashion school and understanding they were not using digital patterns. And I said, oh my God, in design we were using them since some years, but in fashion was hard. I bought my first 3D printer in 2012. I ran my first summer school together with Massimo Banzi, the co-founder of Audurino, to prototype wearable devices using a laser cutter and customizing felt accessories starting from a digital template. And probably you can recognize someone that was also with me. In 2014, I co-founded the first makerspace in Milan dedicated to digital fabrication for fashion and design. Actually, for those who are new to this concept, I guess now, especially the people that participated to transition, know what is a makerspace and what is a fab lab. But for those who don't know, these are places where digital fabrication facilities can be used in an environment where there is collaboration and are managed by people who foster collaborations powered by skill sharing and open innovation. And somehow this created a lot of experimentation in the past 10 years all over the world. Since the beginning, within the international maker community, it has been very strong, the drive to end compulsive consumerism and promote the right to repair our objects and devices. The innovation happening in these online collaborations and offline tinkering managed to create new types of design and fashion objects and machines which had customization and repairability in their DNA. That's why we felt very comfortable with the new European policies for the green transition, and we are looking forward to see the activation of more transparency to limit the unfair competition of companies which are keeping the products' prices low because they are not taking responsibility of their polluting and exploiting. So this is somehow a very important area for us, and after that, like getting comfortable in maker spaces, I also started a new challenge in 2020 to learn directly about circularity in the textile field. And finally, in 2023, thanks to some European cascade funding provided by Worth Project and S4Fashion, I created Circular Clotho, that actually is the first closed-loop smart textile able to protect our bodies from electrosmog. I don't have time to dive into this project today, but I have some samples, and if you're interested, we can discuss in the break. I worked in Biella to develop this textile, and with also international partners. Oops. I wanted to give some, I was invited here to share some like insights around the needs and direction of on vocational and professional training. Before showing some practical example I've been working on, I would like to share some insights of what I learned about the meaning of transition. And first of all, it can happen without the collaboration among citizen, government, and companies, of course. What I mean is that transition into a different system is possible only if all the stakeholders are engaged in understanding a bit more how an industrial linear system with its institutions, its laws and rules could evolve into a circular system. And actually it's not easy to sit down on a table and talk about this. And sometimes when you see companies, we talk generically about companies, but companies are in many different types. There are big companies, international companies, transnational companies, micro enterprises, and not all are equal in the sense that they have less lobbying power, they're less able to, the small one, to sit with policymakers to decide the rule and understand the rules. And also, as citizens, it's not enough to change personal behavior, really, in the acceleration, in the transition. It's important to organize collectively to influence policymakers. For example, into facilitating the activation of repair centers in every neighborhood of our cities, in location with low rent and community involvement, because in the past years we saw a lot of micro-enterprises being expelled by the center of in the center of the city because the rent are rising. So how can we do repairability center if we cannot afford to have these spaces in the center and in the periphery of the city? Or as new companies starting a green enterprise, it's key to activate a dialogue with local policymakers, together with other similar companies in order to be involved in the definition of best practices and even to activate experimental protocols in dealing with using local waste material. We saw in the past year, and I will talk about the project that I've been involved in the past 3 years, we work with micro-enterprises in the city of Milan because, I mean, our cities are also becoming very uncomfortable for small micro enterprises, the ones that are into craft repairing, but also making and producing in local labs. And sometimes they are not used to talk with policymakers. They are not used to sit down and understand and work with modeling the rules, the new rules. We've been hearing before like a strong association bringing the industry to sit down with the European Commission, but with small and micro enterprises is more difficult. So we need to develop those skills also in small and micro enterprises. So if we are designer, architects of our contents, a multidisciplinary approach trains our mind to give context to our specific practice and trains us to zoom out to identify who are our allies or what are the glass ceiling preventing our green action in this complex world. So this is somehow the framework I've been moving into. So moving into the example, I accepted since its initial step to be engaged in the faculty of Fabricademy. That is a multidisciplinary and distributed 6 months intensive program at the intersection of digital fabrication, textiles, and biology, and was founded by Anastasia Pistofidou, Cecilia Raspante, and Fiore Basile, and all of them for many years of experiences in makerspaces and FabLab in Europe. Together, the program became soon a global network of fashion and tech nodes, which are building a shared vocabulary that is really important. When you are really in technical fields, if you don't share a vocabulary, it's important to collaborate. Because I say A and you understand B, and it's not like that. It shouldn't be like that. But also sharing practices and a vision with a strong attitude for prototyping, making, sharing, without being afraid of crossing the boundaries of disciplines. And in the Fabricademy, during the Fabricademy, combining the knowledge of traditional craftsmanship all over the world, because it's not just about Europe, but it's sharing all over, mixed with digital technologies, smart textile, and biomaterials. We are combining actually the need for a renovated and regenerative mass production system with the emergence of mass personalization. So we need to cross these two bridges. So, supported by the knowledge developed in this context, we could put into practice our knowledge and local materials with a pilot that actually was focused on urban circular manufacturing with local materials, because in 2020 we started a EU-funded project called Centrino, where nine European cities could experiment on the idea of working together. And we had a lot of working with the local tailor shop. We had the experiment of manufacturing a tote bag using used sheet of high-end local hotel, and they had this like sheet that could be transformed into like tote bags that are like usually use virgin cotton. And actually what we did is also to engage with the tailor shop that is engaging women and retraining them for local production from 20 countries of the world. Together with them, we used the laser cut, and actually we created a workflow in which they could understand how the laser cut was working, and actually after 1 year of the end of the project, they bought a laser cut and they're using it in their local shop. And the second activity that I wanted to share is we did a PCTO, that in Italian we know what it is, but it's a kind of moment in which students are having this training program organized at the end of the school year in collaboration with a local business partner. And together I spent with the students of Caterina da Siena from fashion and graphic design departments. We talked about repairability, working in mixed group. And the main objective of the experience was to rethink the repair process of second-hand clothing to reflect upon the optimizing and enhancing the processes. Because yes, repairing, but how can we optimize it to be economical? And in which way we can really create branding into the repairing process and at the same time repairing the garments with not too much high cost. But the fun part of this experience that I had is that I was interdisciplinary, so we had the lab with the laser cut, in the school, and then we had the room with the computers, and then we have the fashion lab, and so we had to run through all the school. I had to do kilometers because actually the school is big and was organized with all these labs very far away from each other, and so it was the people with the students running across. So also the architecture is important of the space, because you could understand that actually this old high school was not really constructed to have this interdisciplinary approach, and we were moving more time a day in all this triangulation between in the school. And so yes, see some pictures. I couldn't show the faces of the students because of minors, but we did also an exhibition at the end of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now it's time to listen to Silvia Moglia. She began her career in the 1980s as a fabric buyer for major men and women's fashion companies. She later taught fabric design and fashion history at the Quintino Sella Technical Institute in Biella. And since 2011, she has directed ETS TAM a Biella, the 2 years post-diploma program in the textile sector, now a national reference with the 3 courses and the 93% employment rate. Silvia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello. Hello to everybody. First of all, well, Cross Skills is the name of my presentation, and I introduce briefly what ITS are for those who don't know, because they were born in Italy in 2011, and this kind of school, which is sort of in between VET and high education, because it's, can you go on? It's a two, io. Okay. It's too much. Okay. These are ITS. Higher Technical Institutes. They are 2 years programs, 1,800 hours courses, and of these 1,800, over 600 are in internship. Actually, are courses that are thought to be very tied to the industry of the territory, and we have 7 kind of ITS. Textile is one of them. Then they have mechanical, ICT, and so on. And for fashion and system fashion, we are 7 in Italy. So what's particular of this course is that most of the teachers come from industry, and we give them training as teacher, of course, at the beginning, but what they bring to students is the knowledge of the industry. The other thing is that we are, of course, very close to industry, and we have a lot of flexibility in programs. We can change them every year and follow the needs of the companies of industry. So, well, there's a similar kind of, you surely know the Fachhochschule in Germany, but they exist since years and years, or the BTS in France. And in Italy, the need of this kind of school became very important, especially in this late 20 years, because Italian industry, and I'm talking about my district, which is Biella, small and medium companies. But anyway, they used to raise students and in years and teach them. Now it's very fast, and after 2000, all the company have a lot less person that work in there. So we have to give to companies students they are already ready to get into the work. And who was there to teach them is going to retire in few years or maybe in few months. And so they need to have skills ready to use. So, okay. So this is our school, TAM, and we opened 2 years ago another course, 2 courses in Valenza for the jewelry. And we have 4 programs in Biella, and all of them are specialized in one part of the supply chain. But the things which is in common, these are our laboratories. Our course is very practical and technical. We work less on style and design and much more on learn how to do things. This is the clothing laboratory, and this is the knitting laboratory. And this is the tailoring for O0. We have embroidery, laser cut, and so on. But what's common to all our courses, and it's really a point that is very important, is that all courses, before specializing in one part of the supply chain, they have to learn the whole supply chain deeply and technically. And it's the only way to be able afterwards or during they are learning it to do sustainable design, to think of something which is sustainable from the beginning to the end. Because if you don't know the whole supply chain, which is, you know, in textile along in the classical way, of course now it's shorter, but in the classical way, the supply chain, it's a long supply chain. It lasts more than 2 years, actually, from fiber to the end, and complex, and it involves chemical, mechanical operation, and of course, creative operation, but all of them are tied one to another. So it's very important. So if during the supply chain you don't learn how to be sustainable in every step, but related to all the others, there won't be any sustainable design. Because it's a concept about the whole and not just the product, one step or another. So this is just to, okay, so the concept of cradle to grave or cradle to cradle, which are very used now, you have to start from a sustainable fiber that goes through sustainable spinning, and that goes to sustainable dyeing, and so on. And the more complex become the product, because it's the product of 3-4 steps ahead, behind, the more complex becomes sustainability. And this is the only way to avoid moving problems from one phase to another, which is very common now, I think. So I'm sustainable in my thing, so I'm chemical manager, and so I know I'm not using and poisoning products, but I don't care what the others will do with that product. And so it becomes useless in some way. So, and even moving problems from one impact category to another. Social, well, in Italy we don't have that much the problem, but social sustainability, it's as much important as environment sustainability and all the others aspects. If we don't consider the whole, there won't be any sustainability. So and the complexity, because all the greenwashing plays its game on what we don't know. So we don't know and we believe what they tell us, but mostly what they tell us is just a partial truth, if it's truth. Sometimes it's not, but that's the worst. But what I mean is that we have to go through the whole project, when we project something, to be able to manage it in the correct way, in the right way. And then there's another thing that I subscribe what Zoe just said, that the complexity of textile supply chain is even worse because the supply chain is made with huge companies and small companies. I refer again to Biella and the textile district of Biella, which are small and medium companies. We don't have, the biggest company we have is, I think, 300 employees, 400 employees, and we have 2 or 3 like that one, which is actually a medium size, considering the industry in its whole. But we have small, very small companies, which are 3, 4, 10 people. For those people, which for paradox are most of the time the more sustainable, to be able to respond to what's the demand on sustainability, and I'm talking about certificates, B Corp, ADDTEX, and so on. We have thousands of them. For small companies, very, very difficult. So what's the point of telling you all this? What we have to do as a school, we try to prepare our students to this complexity. Is a way to think open eyes to the complexity and always think and work with open mind. So, how do we do this? First, from the teacher. You can't, I told you we have teachers coming from industry. So, sometimes we have to teach them how to teach things. And sometimes we push them to cooperate, because from one step, every teacher teaches the part that he knows the best. But to work with other teachers and to go to laboratories with more teachers and doing parts of the same project helps a lot. Give to the students the capability to jump from one problem to another with continuity. And interdisciplinary plans and projects. So we teach them the supply chain, but when we develop a project, we develop project with companies on a need that comes from the industry, and we try to find the resolution or to find another way to solve the problem. And these are curriculum and most of the time extracurricular programs. So that's our way to respond of how to bring students to work in a world which is of course more and more difficult. I'm talking like this because I've been 3 days in Milano Unica, and the sentiment wasn't that no. No. It's a difficult moment from fashion and textile. The unknown, what's coming. I mean, United States that we already know will be a little bit like China. They don't care a lot. They just went out from Paris agreement. So we care a lot about sustainability, which is great, but I subscribe to what you said at all, because it's the same thing that was told yesterday. For Europe, it's very difficult to follow and to apply rules that are changing all the time. There are rules, but even not rules, because certification, mostly of them are private, and they follow a sort of fashion, you know. So now it's B Corp, but there's the base rule are very hard anyway. So for a small company, which are maybe more sustainable than big, because they have a shorter chain and they work on the place and they still do a lot. Oh, I did this? No. Oh, okay. These are some of the projects. This is C-Cell. It's a fiber that comes from alga, and we mixed it with wool, and it's completely compostable. We sew it with lyocell, and we didn't put any zip or whatever. So it's a line, a collection which is completely sustainable. It's knitwear and clothing, and this is. I can't remember the name of the project, but it was one piece that became 3 pieces, 4 pieces, and you could use it in many ways. And, well, I think that's it. My time is over, I think. Right.
Thank you, Silvia. Now it's time for the professional duo. We start with Chelsea Franklin. As alumna of both the Royal College of Art and Rhode Island School of Design, Chelsea has spent her career in the intersection of technology, design, and research. She has led multiple projects commercializing leading technology into fashion and lifestyle products, exploring materials, production methods, and new supply chain models. She is now the head of advanced concept design for Pangaea. So please, Chelsea, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Perfect, thank you. And this is my remote? Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's really exciting to hear the outcomes of this project. I think this is a space that personally I'm very interested in as someone who has gone through design education myself and also recognized the skills gap that I had personally entering the industry between where I wanted to be designing product versus what I understood the act of creating garments and apparel to be in the context of education. So I will quickly just start with introducing myself. So I identify as a designer first and foremost. Design is very much my first language. It's my native tongue. But throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to become a bit of an innovation generalist and someone who has the ability to maybe translate design into other disciplines that have specialisms in everything from dye chemistry to polymer scientists, some of the incredible experts I have the privilege of working with. And I think it's my design education that has really allowed me to communicate across all of these really interesting specialisms that are part of the transitions that we need to make towards a more circular economy. So I describe myself as operating at the intersection of responsible innovation, design, and fashion. I am not a typical fashion designer, but I really I have worked in a very commercial context in design as well and recognize the responsibility of every design decision that is made when it goes into a product. If you are choosing one piece of hardware over another, you are affecting hundreds of thousands of units of product in certain roles, and that decision belongs to design. And I think that this is very interesting to also recognize that as a designer, you carry a lot of responsibility, and each even micro decision you make has an effect at a certain scale. And I think my kind of journey was very much around understanding that responsibility and making sure I was informed to make those decisions correctly. So what do I do? As mentioned, my title currently is Head of Advanced Concepts, which is intentionally vague. I very much I work with a series, a network of startups who look at new material science innovation. I also manage Pangaia's independent IP portfolio, so some of our own in-house innovation that we develop ourselves. And I create products using new technologies, and I try and balance end-of-life pathways, the performance and the aesthetics, and the readiness of new materials to bring them to market. So I work to develop concepts into pilot production runs. So a lot of times it's the very first point in time in which some of these innovations are being commercialized. But I really focus in getting product into the hands of consumers. So it's not about a concept product that sits on a plinth in a museum. For me, it's really about actually giving it a life, seeing who can use it for the first time, what the response is, how to actually get it into the store, into a commercial context, so that we can also start to get a dialogue started with consumers around what next generation materials can be. So I do this through what I call triangular partnerships. This is where, as the designer, I work with innovators and manufacturers. I really support a lot of different types of suppliers, from the actual garment factories to also the raw material supply chains that underpin some of these new materials. And really, those partnerships are so equally crucial to bringing these things to market. So I really emphasize the value of my network of supply chain partners in this equation. So Pangaia. So you may or may not be familiar with us as a brand. I'm going to take a moment now to share a little bit about the brand, its kind of position in the industry, and what we've done to date. So I'll just share our mission and our brand, some of the ethos, and some examples of some of the products that I've kind of alluded to in this introduction. So Pangaia was actually started as a company designed to what we call accelerate an earth-positive future. Now, this was really based off of actually an investment fund, a venture capitalist fund that was investing in new material science technology. And this fund, it was called Future Tech Lab. They recognized that fashion brands were actually quite hesitant to take on some of these new materials and bring them to market. And that's because there was a significant risk involved in doing so. So they created Pangaia to be this layer in between, this proof of concept vehicle for scaling next generation materials that they had been investing in. Now, we're only 4 years old, so we're a very young company still and finding our way. But we are very much a purpose-driven lifestyle brand. And we position ourselves as really bringing problem-solving innovation into the hands of a consumer. So again, that point of really focusing on the commercialization of new technology that is really around an earth-positive ethos and mission. We have an incredible IP portfolio in-house. So we are led by what we call science, purpose, and design, and the intersection of those three things. Now, material science is very much in our DNA as a brand, and we have proprietary innovation, including flower down, for example, which is our down alternative made from wildflower as a biopolymer and aerogel. Now, this is an animal and plastic-free alternative to the typical feather down. So a single example of an earth-positive innovation that we use the Pangaia lifestyle brand to actually scale through some of the product assortment. Now, our impact. So we've talked a lot about impact this morning, but we also conduct life cycle assessments across all of our materials and products. So this is really for our own proprietary technologies. We want to understand the environmental footprint, but LCAs play a really big role in also how we assess and evaluate partner innovation and what we decide to really emphasize our focus and prioritization on as a business. Our philanthropy. So as a business, we actually from the beginning set out to do more good than harm, and we pledged to plant a tree for every single product sold. To date, we've planted over 1 million trees, but we've also expanded our philanthropy efforts. This is a photo here of Coral Gardeners, which are an incredible NGO that we support that focus on the restoration of the coral reefs, and we also focus on funds that are specifically looking at biodiversity preservation, so the Trillion Bees Foundation. And our credentials. So as quite a young business, only a few years old now, but we are a certified B Corp, and these certification entities have also helped us in really making a case for doing business right and really setting us up from the get-go to really be able to support our earth positive ambition. We also work with Fairware as an organization to ensure that our supply chains are incredibly well vetted in terms of the traceability and transparency from an ethics perspective. So we were granted a Fairware Leader Score, which was a great achievement for the brand. We have an incredible social and ethics team. Our production, so we mainly produce in Europe as a business, but we have over 20 manufacturing partners globally. So we're still constantly expanding and looking for key partners, like I said, that are really keen to work with some of these new material science technologies. And our products. So we have everything from leisure wear, which we're quite known for in terms of our hoodies, our track pants, and much of our jersey product range. But we also have product across accessories, outerwear, and new categories that are really built around driving innovation. Now, our partnerships. So this is very exciting for us. We, as well as working through our own technology portfolio, we partner with key innovators to help them scale their technologies. And as I mentioned before, some of these technologies are ones that we've invested in or we were partnering in from a financial perspective, but we're also looking to partner with technologies that are at that key cusp of validation. So in terms of the readiness level, they're really just on the verge of full commercialization. So we have a track record of launching world's first prototypes into the market, and these include the world's first denim that was made from 100% textile waste. This was done in collaboration with an innovator named Evernew, who have a chemical recycling technology where they're able to recycle textile waste and create through a chemical process a new fiber that is 100% waste content, and they can recycle that fiber up to 10 times. So a really infinite loop is being created through this chemical recycling method. So really interesting kind of new innovation, but again, positioning it as denim, which is obviously traditionally a cotton-based industry, and really showing that you can use a fully recycled material to replace something that is otherwise ubiquitous. We launched the world's first soap made from a lab-grown alternative to palm oil. So this was a very exciting project with an innovator called C16 Biosciences based out of New York. Now, palm oil, I think as many of you in this room probably know, is a very problematic ingredient. It's also very ubiquitous. It's in our food, it's in our shampoo, it's in so many products that we all use every day. But palm oil is a monocrop. It leads to the deforestation of the rainforest. And so in order to preserve biodiversity, we're always looking for substitutes for this really key ingredient. Now, C16 have created an oil that actually performs very similarly to palm oil. So almond, sunflower seeds, some of the other nut oils, they don't do the job, which is why palm oil is as ubiquitous as it is. But C16's palmless oil actually does the job. And they create it through a microbial fermentation process. So it's going through a lab-grown biofabrication process to produce. So very interesting, not using land or trees in the process. We produced an on-demand 100% recyclable 3D printed shoe in collaboration with an innovator named Zellerfeld. Now, Zellerfeld have both hardware and software technology that produces printed product on demand. So this was all made in Germany, but really exciting to also see other examples of circular models from a product perspective and really closing the loop by creating that take-back scheme and working with a recycling center to prove that we can actually grind down the shoe at the end of its life and reprint new iterations. So a few examples of kind of circular product in practice, bringing technology to market through these pilot production rounds that I described. And I'll just say thank you so much for listening to me today. I'm trying to end perfectly on time, so I know I'm a few seconds over there, but please feel free to connect to continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. It's time now to listen to Christine Nsubuga, please, from Clem Wardrobe. I kindly ask speakers to not to exceed the timing because we are running very late, and you have the timing over there, so you can check if you are late or not. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And how do I work this? Oh, perfect. Oh my God, I thought I was going to get it wrong. Hi, everyone. My name is Christine, and I just got a kick. She's either hungry or saying good luck. I'll go with both. So my name is Christine Nsubuga, and a huge focus of my work over the past 10 years has been the consumer, right? So we hear so much about what the industry is doing and what brands are doing to change the industry, to be more competitive and all that kind of stuff. But when I started working in the fashion industry, something I found, initially I started out working in a New York-based company called Gilt. And when I worked there, I worked with our top spend customers, right? So these were consumers, individual consumers who were spending over $1 million a year on the website, right? And my job was to work very closely with them to understand their needs and all that kind of stuff. And while I was at that job, I realized that when our tech team was building new technology for the website and new sort of projects, they didn't really have any insights into how they actually translated to the actual customer. So I sat on that team, and that's when I discovered machine learning, and I discovered how incredible it was for being able to translate basically what the brand wants to say to the actual customer. And then I worked as a wardrobe consultant with my own individual customers. So I'd walk into someone's closet, and we would basically create a system for how they wear their clothes, how they buy their clothes, and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so something that really excites me is this picture. And I'm sure we've all seen it before. So whether you've seen it, online as, the dumping grounds of the items we don't wear, or at the bottom of your own closet, it's something that excites me so much, because for me, it means we can create systems, basically, to organize this, to make it, obviously, to create a system to organize it and to make it more sustainable and all of that. And a huge part of that is tech. So I've completely married tech in terms of how I think about the future of fashion, especially in terms of the customer and the end consumer. And so I want to share with you some groundbreaking fashion tech solutions that I'm so excited about at the moment. The very first one is mine. It's called Clem. And basically what we wanted to, when we started out with Clem, what we wanted to do was understand, first and foremost, how is the average user, the average customer? So these are not fashionistas or, people who are already in the industry, just the average customer. What are the main problems they're dealing with when it comes to their wardrobe, right? And the main thing we found was that the entire process is completely fragmented, right? So you go and buy something somewhere, you have to figure out where to tailor it if it needs to be tailored. You have to figure out how to put it together as an outfit. And unlike, say, I don't know, when you buy an iron on Amazon, right? When you buy a fashion item, the product discovery process doesn't stop after you've bought it and brought it home. You still wake up one morning and you're like, what do I wear today? So that process continues. And I found that this is something that was constantly missed by the brands and the industry in general. And when I worked as a wardrobe consultant, that's what I wanted to answer to, and that's what I answered to for all of my clients. But obviously, I'm one person, and I can work with as many wardrobes as possible, but ultimately, I only have so much time, and I can only scale that solution to so far. So what I set out to do was to figure out how, as a wardrobe consultant, I can create a solution that can be scaled so anyone can use it and follows the principles of what I work with or how I do my job. So the first thing we needed to understand was the main problems and what answers people wanted. So through my own work and also researching for Clem, we found that people really wanted to maximize the value out of their existing items. So we got a lot of people saying, hey, I've got this thing, I've only worn it once. I have no idea how to keep wearing it, or I have something, but I completely forgot I already had it, so I ended up buying something new, the same thing twice. And another thing they really wanted was dependable wardrobe advice. So I want someone to give me advice specifically on my wardrobe. So not to try to sell me something, but just to actually help me put things together. And then the other thing was informed future purchases. So I want to be able to, when I'm buying something new, I want to know if this is going to go in my actually existing wardrobe. How am I going to wear this when I bring it home? So the entire idea for Clem is to deal with, after the brand has sold the item to the user, is to basically deal with all the steps that happen after the fact to keep serving that customer. So we actually launched our newest version today. I've been away from the internet, so I'm pretty sure when I open up my phone, the team is just blasting my thing. But so what we've done with Clem, a huge part of it actually. So wardrobe apps have existed for a really long time. So this is, there's nothing super new about this. But what we wanted to focus on was basically building minimum features with high functionality. So Clem has only 3 main features. We've got the digital wardrobe. We've got the digital wardrobe, we've got the Ask Clem, and then we've also called the closet stats. So the digital wardrobe is actually missing here. Sorry, the Ask Claim is actually missing here. But Ask Claim is basically an AI stylist bot that we connect to your wardrobe. And if you have a question, you go in and you're like, hey, Clem, what do I wear today? And she's able to look into your wardrobe and put together some items for you, right? And then with the closet stats, that gives you ideas of, what is in your wardrobe and basically helps you track track how you're wearing your items and so on. And then we've got the outfit canvas, which I forgot about. So this is basically a canvas, and you drag and drop and play around with it to create your own outfits. We are planning on automating that system a little bit later, but for now, the user is able to play with this. So what we've done so far, we have about 3,000 users on Clem. And today we just launched, again, the next version of it, and we've just kind of been in a closed beta. And now we're kind of looking to see how this goes and hopefully keep expanding it. But yeah, there's other things I really want to talk to you about. Okay, so Clem is really exciting, and I could literally be here and talk about it all day. But the other things I really wanted to share with you that you probably already know about is the digital product passports. And one of the main brands working on that is EON, and the founder, her name is Natasha Frank here. And what they're doing is basically something that Clem can actually build on top of. So obviously making products traceable. So having little tags where after you've bought the item, you're able to find information about it, very similar to a UPC code. So how Clem can actually play with that is after the fact, long after you've bought the item, you can actually add it to your Clem wardrobe very quickly by just scanning it. I don't have time. Okay. I could talk to you all day about this stuff. So another one I don't know if you know much about them, is Silana. So Silana is so exciting to me. And the reason for this is these guys are literally automating the so they've created robots that literally create an item from beginning to end without any human interaction. Right? So these are machines, so basically the same way a sewing machine or whatever. They've literally created robots to do this, right? And the founders are really incredible. They're from Austria. They're so amazing. And basically what they want to do is increase the percentage of made in Europe, made in US for brands, but also because the technology is automated, is basically make that process cheaper for brands to be able to do. So part of the reason why brands don't want to produce and manufacture in Europe or the US is because it's too expensive, right? But if you actually have these robots doing it for you, it's a lot cheaper. And when I spoke to the founders, something they told me was that the future for them looks like you walk into a store, you pick out an outfit or an item you want, right? And then you give your measurements, you go for a coffee, you come back, and your item is made there for you, right? And that's how they're seeing this. And this is so incredible. I get so excited about it. And lastly, 40 seconds. Lastly, I'm so excited about fashion tech, right? I'm not going to have enough time to talk about it here. So I actually started, it's coming live very soon, a podcast show type thing called The Fashion Stack, where I talk and educate young minds and even older minds, investors and all that kind of stuff about what's going on in the fashion tech world. Because I do believe this industry is going to grow so much as AI and all that kind of tech becomes more prevalent. I really see a massive lift in fashion, and it's the applications for technology. My focus won't just be consumer, it would literally be the entire life cycle of the garment. And I will have some fun lectures, expert interviews, longer case studies, and also, tons of founders and new innovation people coming on. So if you want to hear more, etc., that's where you can find me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine. Perfectly on time. It's now time to the researcher duo, Chirara Colombi, PhD in design, associate professor at Politecnico di Milano, design department. She's getting here. Please.
Perfetto, ok. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to be on time because actually some of the introductory slides that I prepare have been already widely discussed. Is it coming? So I'm just building on them from a higher education institution perspective. We have been discussing the knowledge triangle, which I like to contextualize not only in relation to the stakeholders that are directly involved, but also talking about values and meanings, the drivers that economies offer us in understanding how the different industries, and especially the fashion industry, is moving to, and of course the policies. So we have had a EU representative talking about this. The idea is that as a higher education institution, but in general, as companies or any educational institution, has also the role of influencing policies, understanding with a perspective that is much more fast forward the needs of the people, the community, and therefore directing in some ways the perspectives, the direction where the industry should move to allow people to have a better life. In particular for the fashion industry, talking about sustainability, this is very, very much important. There's an ethical goal that we should all pursue together. When I've been asked to speak in this conference and get in touch with transitions, of course, the reference that was in my mind is the twin transition, or triple transition, if we want. So my consideration that I'm going to share about what we do in higher education institutions such as Politecnico di Milano, where I come from, which is a teaching and research university in engineering, architecture, and design, where in design we graduate the 85% of students in design from Italy. So we are ranked first in Italy, third in Europe, and seventh in the world for this topic. Our perspective is to support in every field of design, and in particular in the fashion one, the concept of innovating education and the industry understanding of the fashion processes through digitalization, and of course toward a much more sustainable approach. We like, and this has been already discussed, consider also a third pillar, the people pillar. So talking about better triple transition, and therefore considering also the ability to be resilient and reacting to the fast forward situation we are living in. So we have seen how the different let's say tools or policies are influencing the fashion futures, and in particular for the textile ecosystem transition pathway, it's important to recognize the ability to understand and use new technologies. From the Pact for Skills in textile ecosystems, we highlight the ability to promote a lifelong learning education. So therefore, I'm here to speak about Politecnico di Milano as a higher education institution and its approach, but I want to share the fact that we are always moving toward a format or an idea where education is not divided in, let's say, tiers. So secondary education, higher education, but it's an activity that should accompany any citizen from its birth, if we want, until the end of the productive life, but in general for all their life, so that also becoming a professional becomes important to always get back to a situation, a context where you can update your skills, but also you can increase your understanding of contemporary drivers that can change your profession, but as well can allow you to change the profession if it's not already happening. And in relation to the 2030 objectives, of course, the focus is the dimension of offering qualitative education to everybody. So it's about accessibility and inclusivity, where we are working very much on the concept of decolonizing our educational tools and our educational approach, recognizing that there's for sure a different ability of students nowadays to learn, to understand, to participate interactively with educational programs and with faculty, teachers. But also there's the need of not continuing to colonize countries that do not have a European tradition or an American tradition or a Eastern tradition or from the global South, but we have to recognize which are the elements that are more relevant and more meaningful in each cultural content. Saying that, we understand, considering transition, fashion with a definition that does not want to scare you or does not look too much technical or focusing just on a particular segment of fashion, but we very much often now speak about fashion tech, where the suffix tech refer to an approach more than being just product-based, so talking about smart textiles or the inclusion of technologies, art technologies such as sensors and so on. We refer to a process-based approach, where we want to focus on the improvement and education that supports the understanding on how digitalization of processes can impact positively on a different kind of industry, where we can renovate, innovate, or re-engineer existing products or develop new products, improve the efficiencies, but also the abilities to produce innovation through existing processes or new processes empowered by digital technologies, and also a focus on business models. Therefore, here you see a list of consideration. I don't want to go through each bullet point, just giving you a general comment on them, and I guess then the slides will be available to everybody. What we have understood also through another European project that we have been working on a few years ago, and now it's continuing also thanks to the National Resilience and Recovery Plan that we are engaged in with different projects. We understood that, for example, the dimension and relationship between business to consumer and business to business activities, it's very much important. So also for a university, a higher education institution, it's important to tackle this these two dimensions and not just focus on a traditional understanding of the market and the supply chain. There are different customer experiences that are needed. So we are not just understanding the necessity of having a traditional relationship with a customer that is just buying a fashion item or a fashion service, and of course understanding which are the potentialities of digitalization and the concept of sustainability business for generating new revenue streams. This pushes us in asking for transformation or supporting transformations or transitions. They are very much needed, and that focus on the ability of collaborate with with different fields, with different knowledge fields. So pushing very much the interdisciplinarity of our education, understanding which are the new roles that are needed beyond a traditional or, let's say, general definition of designer or fashion designer, and as well being able to act specifically in different parts of the supply chain. We have conducted a research on emerging job roles, and here we can see that there are skills, design skills that comes from other fields like UX, and as well the ability of managing that will translate in what is for us this kind of educational model, which has definitely a relationship with what transition has shared as well, but it's focused expressively in a flexibility where the collaboration with industry that it's entering in the role of faculty, but also in the learner into our model is one key, which is my final message. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. Now it's time for the last researcher duo presenter, Svenja Keune, a postdoctoral researcher at the Swedish School of Textiles at University of Borås. Please.
Thank you so much. I hope you have some energy left for the last 10 minutes. As was said before, my name is Svenja Keune. I'm an artistic researcher from the Swedish School of Textiles, University of Borås, and now the slide disappeared. Part of the presentation today will be more than human perspectives to design, especially to textile design. And since the slides, like with the images and videos, are quite fundamental for my talk, maybe we can just relax a little and take a breath and move around. Okay, here we go. So the next slide, hopefully. Yes, so I will talk about more than human perspectives to textile design, and I spent the last more than 10 years to really exploring this path. I have a textile design-based education from Hamburg in Germany, and then have done my PhD also together with Marina and Troy during the ADDTEX ETN European Network Training. And since then, actually Chirara was my opponent for the PhD, so it's a very funny coincidence to speak after her today. I basically walk you through a couple of projects that I have done since my PhD. One of them was the project Designing and Living with Organisms, which was funded by the Swedish Research Council. It's actually quite amazing that Sweden has like a specific funding program for artistic research. I think that's quite unique. So I feel for the moment quite comfortable in Scandinavia because I wouldn't know like how to get funding for my quite experimental projects otherwise. If you have another idea, please let me know. And during my research is also very personal, so it's not on. I really take it personal and experiment with my life and everyday life as well. So during my PhD, I bought a tiny house on wheels, moved it to the countryside in Sweden in order to live together with my textile plant experiments, and then continued with my postdoc to explore like what are the potential relationships between textiles and insects. So now we are moving on to insects. Yes, and since there's not so much time, I will go like rather quickly through all the projects. But if you have like any questions, yeah, just let me know. There's also all kinds of information available in forms of articles and yeah, like pictures and documentation on my website. What I would like to explain a little is that so yeah, I really try to expand like what we think of textiles and how textiles matter in like many different other fields. And one of my approaches is to diversify, like to not focus on just one material or one technique, but to really diversify. Because, like for example, this is an installation where I wanted insects to. Okay, so it seems like the videos are not playing. But anyway, so there were videos that I wanted to show, but seems that they are gone now. But yeah, I made this textile-based installation. Basically installed those sculptures in front of my house, and then basically waited and observed over a couple of years like what would happen. So here you see a parasitic wasp interacting with one of the clay-based like shapes. So I work with clay, porcelain, textiles, and all kinds of other materials, mostly with crochet when it comes to those three-dimensional textiles, but also with 3D printing. And yeah, it's a lot of observation, very much patience needed. Yeah, for example, this object to the right. Yes, there's the video. I waited for 3 years that something was gonna happen, and then one summer a community of wasps moved in, which was then like really interesting to observe, like how they gradually built their home in this woolen sculpture, and then afterwards, when they moved out, a mouse moved in and ate the nest. Yeah, it's like nothing lasts. Everything is nurturing for someone else. I'm organizing insect summer camps since 2022 because in the area where I'm working, sometimes I feel quite alien and alone with my approach, and then it's really important to gather like-minded people around me. So we are organizing these camps now for 3 years, quite successfully, always co-created. So there's a general theme, but everyone who is coming has a say and is also like facilitating things. Everything is basically co-created. And since the last year's insect summer camp, we became quite interested in insect vibration communication, which is called biotremology. Biotremology is more like the animal vibration communication, but we work with insects. And I'm already 2 minutes over time, so I will switch a little bit like through this project. This one is called Holding Surplus House and is also funded by it's Formas, also like a Swedish funding for a 4 years project in which we build a tiny house on wheels that we move around to engage with different communities and that we use as a platform to engage citizens and set up interventions that allow people to physically engage with with a shared imagination, or like with the seasons and what resources in households can actually mean. So we were growing some grass inside the house as a spring intervention to grow a window blind for the house. And then also to explore like the barley grass as a resource, we actually drank the grass, or like served frozen barley grass cubes at the Southern Sweden Design Week to our audience. In order to really explore, what can textiles do? How can we grow own materials? What is it like to grow a curtain on the floor in the tiny house? A dog visitor also enjoyed it quite a lot. Our winter intervention 2 or 3 weeks ago was about living with heated uncertainties. So a comment on climate change and like an installation to visualize, not only visualize, but really to make kind of experienceable, like what a couple of degrees difference can actually make, like for our ways of living. So we flooded the tiny house on wheels with 2 centimeters of water. And if it would be colder temperatures, we would be able to ice skate on the floor around the table in the tiny house. But it was not cold enough in southern Sweden, so we had to live with a puddle. And that, of course, makes quite a difference if the floor is frozen or if it's a puddle. So if you want to follow this project, you can do so via Instagram. And the Swedish Research Council has just granted us with another funding for a 3-year project where we will work with an indigenous community in the rainforest in Ecuador. They are called the people of Sarayaku. And we will bring them together with the insect summer camp to explore, like, how can we co-create artistic work that are related to the more than human, and also kind of work with how can art and craft communicate across language boundaries. Do you have energy for 3 more minutes, or should I stop here? Okay. Because I have lots of other projects also available. So if you want to speak with me about them, then let me know. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We will have now 3 very short presentations of the Erasmus Plus projects. So let's start with Elena Tognon that will present the SIT project. You have kind of 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
First of all, thank you for hosting me and giving me the opportunity to present our project. I'm representing Padova Chamber of Commerce that's in charge for the communication aspect of the project. So if you have any question, please contact me and I will reply as soon as possible. So, our project, SIT, Sustainability in Textile, Clothing, Leather and Footwear. we are just in the middle of the project that started in February 24. Okay. The partnership is composed by 15 partners from 8 countries, divided in vet providers, higher education researchers, and business representatives. The goal is to create a bridge between education and labor market. The full partnership is that one. The lead partner is from Germany. And where we started from. The problem is that the textile sector in general produced and generates a very high turnover, but has a considerable impact on the environment. So we have to adopt sustainable practices to reduce pollution. But this transformation is very, very slow. And we aim to analyze this emerging occupation because the real goal is to have skilled or upskilled or reskilled workers to help companies to launch and to succeed this transformation. This is our work plan. The very first activity has been analyzing the context, and so we contact the business representative at local level, and we propose them to sign a knowledge triangle agreement in order to have them more committed to follow our project and also to give us suggestions. And then, thanks to an online survey, some focus groups, and also specific interviews, we collect a lot of data and we create SIT Green Comp framework. And then, what we find? We found that 2 emerging professions, okay, 2 emerging professions have to be attentioned: the biotextile technician and the recycle manager. Together, these professions bridge innovation and sustainability to companies. The biotextile technician focus on design biodegradable and naturally sourced fibers that, compared to the synthetic one, require less chemicals and also less water to be treated. And combined with the job of the recycle manager that evaluates strategies for recycling, reusing upcycled textile waste, they could be the solution for a greener sector. And so, taking into consideration what we found, we are elaborating our training. This training will be published in a dedicated section of the interactive platform capitalizing the project FIV, and it will function also as a green local hub where SMEs can connect with the professional, having a suggestion on how to become more greener and more sustainable. And that's our our communication channels, so keeping in touch with us, and that's all.
Thank you very much. Now we give the floor to Alexandra Corey that will present the VETRINE project. I would like to say it in Italian, VETRINE project.
Yes, thank you. So indeed, I am Alexandra Corey. I'm with SEDEX TCBL. We're a group that works on numerous EU projects, of which one of them is this Erasmus-funded project VETRINE, which I will tell you about in all of less than 2 minutes, I believe. So you'll recognize the format. I don't need to tell you about how these things are structured. We do have our VET partners who are partnered with market-linked organizations, and then a support team down here of digital and industry experts. So we have 3 primary outputs, which are, of course, the usual structure of study, learn, and then create a connection between the learners and the market. The real important part is that we just released 3 weeks ago our online MOOC, a program called Green VETRINE, an introduction to sustainable garment design and manufacturing, which does exactly what the title says. So you have 5 sections, 5 chapters, which you can see laid out here. The course can be done online in whatever timing a student wants, but we also at this time have the 6 additional languages being tested by our VET institutions with some 200 students, and who will be giving us feedback to improve the course. So at this time, the English language course is available freely online. If you want to implement it, you can. You have to complete the whole course in order to receive a certification. Certification comes first through a quiz, then going through the various learning sections, and then taking that quiz again with 100% on the whole thing, which I have to say I didn't pass yet, but if I study, I will. You get a certification. Of course, as with the transition outputs, we observed that some people will want to take just certain sections. You don't get a certificate, but of course, any of these sections can be used independently. So I would ask you to use just a tiny little bit of your energy to lift your phones and photograph this slide, where you have a QR code that leads directly to the course. And of course, you can reach me for any further information. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And now it's time for the last project, the ADDTEX project, which is presented by Desiree Scalia.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I will go into, as well in 3 minutes, into ADDTEX project. Okay, very briefly about the project. The project is called Advancing Industrial Digital and Green Innovation in Advanced Textile Industry through Innovation in Learning and Training. It's a 3-year project funded by the Alliance for Innovation, and we are 12 partners distributed around Europe. And the general objective of the project is to innovate the teaching and the learning within the sector of the advanced textile material based on co-creation of knowledge and exchange between academy, industry, and other stakeholders. And the aim is to foster the digital and green transition. As a similar to transition, we had implemented different activity, starting from in 2022 with the preparation and gap analysis involving higher education institution, VIT provider, and industry into living labs. And based on that, we have developed the training, which consists in our academy, which focus on digital, green, and smart transition. After that, we have tested the academy with students, involving them also into mobility, which was shaped around the concept of bootcamp. So they work on entrepreneurial product after, of course, having followed our MOOC. At the same time, students were involved in an hackathon in which they developed solutions together with the industry. Now they are involved in a virtual internship together with these involved companies. And we will also finalize soon our project in June. At the moment, the last activities are master classes, which is addressed to textile employees, and coaching also for textile employees. A little bit of pictures, just to show what we did. Some pictures are related to the hackathon, these two, and the other two are connected to the bootcamp that we have done this summer, so in which they prototype with different kind of materials. And finally, you have here the QR code to join our website. If you have received on Instagram the agenda of this event of today, we are also linked, so you can follow us also on social media. And just very briefly, if you want to join our master classes that are ongoing now, there will be an appointment every month, and there are some information on the website and on social media. That's all.
Thank you. We have now just 5 minutes for our Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. No questions? Anyway, we will be available also during our lunch if you want to talk to some of us.
Chelsea, Christine, Svenja, Chiara, Zoe. I know we are bringing a lot of content in here in a very short time, but yeah. Otherwise, if you don't have any question now, you can take them during the lunch break. I know we are a bit late, so we are gonna be speeding it up the roundtable, reducing the duration of the roundtable. So, so yeah, I would like please to question. No questions? Yeah. Okay. Then let's start with the roundtable. I would like to ask the panelists, please, to approach the stage. Okay, wait, I just need to put this here. Yeah, maybe. Oh, it's fine. It's good, it's good. Yes, thank you. No, please, just sit down as you like.
Test.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us to the panel discussion. Okay, so the overall topic is on the shaping the future of training in the textile and fashion, aligning visions on Europe Pact for Skills and 2030 objectives. From the panelists, I think the only one that is missing to present, I mean, all the others have presented during the morning, but Pedro, we've got here Pedro Gonçalves. He's a policy officer in the Innovation and Skills Department at ADDTEX, the European Apparel and Textile Confederation. With 4 years of experience in the textile sector, he supports initiatives such as the TCLF Skills Alliance and the Aqualis TCLF Erasmus Plus Blueprint project that Dirk introduced earlier, promoting workforce development and preparing the industry for green and digital transitions. Pedro contributes to innovation and capacity building efforts, fosters collaboration with the stakeholders, and aligns industry priorities with European policy goals to strengthen the sector's resilience and competitiveness. Wow. Okay.
Now that you Now that you presented me like that, I don't need a LinkedIn any longer.
Yeah, of course.
So thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today among colleagues and friends, speaking about this very important topic of skills. From our perspective as ADDTEX, as the European Confederation for Textiles and Apparel, the results that we've seen here today, not only from the Transitions Project, but as well as VETRINE, SIT, ADDTEX, and the others, are a clear example of what we are trying to do as ADDTEX to try to promote the implementation of this idea, the Pact for Skills that Dirk Vantinghem, the Director General of ADDTEX, presented before. We want to make this list, these key performance indicators, these actions, these objectives real, to make it tangible, to make it work on the ground. And it's through initiatives like these, collaborations with people from different backgrounds, from different stakeholders, representing different stakeholders. For us, it's a key objective as of now to bring this knowledge, to bring this collaboration, to make sure that there's that our workforce it's skilled and upskilled if they want, to make sure that our industry remains competitive and make sure that we reach those goals that we all mentioned here, the digital and the green transition.
Yeah, we've got quite a few challenges ahead, no? Since those ambitious objectives and frameworks are not so easy to implement. So I guess it's very much about finding this balance between all these directives and keeping the competitiveness, as Dirk mentioned earlier. So I guess we will need to adapt to this new framework coming up. I would like to say that the panel discussion is organized around 3 blocks. Block 1 is going to touch upon bridging the skills gap in sustainability and digitalization. The second block is going to be about educators and trainers, challenges, solutions, and attractiveness. Finally, block 3 is going to be on academy-industry collaboration. We planned a longer panel discussion, but we are going to stick to 1 question per panelist, so I hope that's fine. So first question goes to Pedro, but you actually kind of answered it already, so yeah, we can keep it short, but it is about what approaches can align training programs with the textile and fashion industry needs, especially in light of Europe's Pact for Skill and 2030 objectives.
No, at least from as of now, and I mean, it's been for a while since the Pact for Skill was launched, our main objective is to establish partnerships. And we look at these partnerships from a local and regional perspectives, because from our sides, from the umbrella, as well as from the European Commission, they deem these partnerships as the key catalyst to make sure that the different stakeholders at the different strong textile, clothing, leather, and footwear regions, they are sitting down on the same table, under the same roof, and discussing what are the challenges, what are the needs, what can we do to make sure that our workforce, our local, regional workforce, can achieve all of these goals, all of these challenges. So we've been working towards that together with my colleague Paula and the rest of the team to identify stakeholders at the different regions, establish first workshops with them, mentioning what are the goals, how can they establish this informal or formal governance structure to have them come together and then set up an action plan and what key activities, and this could be, establishing new curricula, could be ways to raise awareness. So each region has different needs, different challenges. So we feel that from there we can do a bigger impact once these different ecosystems are built. That then Europe can show as one, and we can do and can have a bigger impact on the long term.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. Regarding those challenges you just mentioned, I'd like to address a question to Enrico. Could you tell us, please, what top 3 skills are necessary for textile and fashion businesses to become circular? And if you can share with us any success story.
Yeah, thank you, Marina. It's a very challenging question, and it's challenging to keep it short because, but as we have seen from the presentation that I made regarding the skills and the gaps that have been identified, also thanks to transition, we can mention maybe a couple of them to keep it short. One is the legislation, as Pedro was mentioning, and the balance between legislation requirements and competitiveness factors that are mainly affecting small, medium companies in textile and clothing value chain. This is very relevant because, as we can see, there is a lot of talking around this new legislation and the eco-design, the DPP, the EPR, the sustainable by design products. So there will be many new stringent duties on the shoulders of the SMEs and the workers, the technicians and the professionals working in the SMEs, but they are far from being acknowledged about what it will be, also because we still don't know exactly what they will encompass. So this is one first requirement, and knowing the legislation and the technicalities behind the legislation. I'm thinking, for instance, to the REACH regulation. So the chemical part also will become very, very relevant, and we need technicians and experts in this domain. The second need is about, in my opinion, communication and the combination between communication and technicalities again. So the knowledge of the value chain and the technologies that are composing the value chain are very, very relevant. And we see that in many cases, fashion brands, clothing manufacturers, they do not know what happens before. And on the other side, textile producers do not know very well what happens afterwards. So a co-creation activity is very, very relevant. And this has to be communicated, because I want to point out my very last point to keep it short, because I would like to say much more, but it's very difficult to attract talents into the first part of the value chain, into the textile factories and the workshops, because young people do not see textile production as an attractive sector to work in, and they do not see it as, if you want, glamorous as fashion design. So we need to pass the message that also working in textile is very promising for young generations, because there is a lot of technology embedded, because there are career opportunities, and also because this is where the real sustainability is going to be created. So it's not only eco-designing the clothing, but it's also make the production of textiles and the value chain for producing textile more sustainable, and this is the basis for communicating a more sustainable product and really achieving the eco-design goals.
Thank you, Enrico, for your comprehensive answer. Regarding what you mentioned about the difficulty of getting the workforce in the textile industry, and this is like a major problem, no? And then I would like to address this question to Silvia on how can we engage the youth to pursue careers in the textile and fashion industry in the context of VET, which is highly relevant, and it's one of the sectors that the EU is especially interested in upskilling. So could you think of, or are you, what strategies do you have to engage with
Actually,
the younger?
I don't really know. It's our problem. I mean, we have such a need that if we could give diploma to the double of our students, which are 100, 120 every year, we could place them in all of them. but we have not enough demand, because students, well, they, as he said, and I subscribe, they don't feel it attractive. They don't feel it. So it's something that we discuss quite a lot with companies, with owners, and at a certain point, someone said, you have to be sexy. You have to make textile sexy. Yes, but how? I mean, we do open day. Something that works enough is to give open day in the laboratories and invite students to the laboratories and show them that textile is not anymore what their parents used to tell them, because that's the problem as well. We have 20% students from Biella and 80% of students from the rest of Italy. We have courses in Italian, so we have mostly Italians, some students from Europe, but most of them are Italian, but few from their own town. And that's because textile has been lived by the parents or grandparents, not in the same way that textile is today, but students, they don't know, so they have to see. So we try, that's the reason why we try to keep our laboratories very updated, to have all the new technologies, and through students bring technologies and new technologies to industry, because sometimes old industry and old owners, they don't buy new technology because they don't have someone that can run it, that can use it. But to make textile attractive, very good question, and I'm sorry to say, I don't really have an answer. Do
Troy,
you?
Please.
Do you?
I have an answer. Just really quickly. Sorry to butt in on your time, but we have a Shimaseki whole garment knitting machine called by Shimaseki a machine. And nobody was interested in it until I turned the lab around and called it a Shimaseki whole garment knitting robot. And the moment it was a robot, everybody was very interested in it. A robot is defined as a machine that does something a human does. Grandmothers knit sweaters, this knits sweaters, it is a robot. So I think we have a branding issue in the fashion manufacturing wing, that if we just started saying robots, everybody would be on top of it.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I said. When they visit laboratories, and we have the Shimas as well, and these nice technologies that, so they understand. But you have to get them at the open day to come to the laboratory. There's a step before when you go to talk to in schools about textile.
But try saying robot.
Yeah, I think on that, I think it's true that technology can help us in making it more attractive, because it is true that all the textile industry is based on many manufacturing processes that involve many machines. So if technology can help us on reducing that, and we know there are still some parts, some steps of for example, the knitting garment making that are still very manual, like the linking machine that allows you to connect one sleeve to the front of a sweater, that is done manually. And Lydia from the MODAC cluster could tell us about that a lot. So maybe if we evolve the technology to the point that you don't need a person to do that, no? It's a repetitive task. Imagine doing it during 8 hours, linking one sleeve to sweater, one after the other. So I think we need to rethink that a bit as well. Okay.
May I interrupt?
Yes,
and interject
yes.
a thought? I think that it's also a matter of making a youngster to understand that being able to use technology or manage technology is a must for a creative person. It's not a matter just of actioning a robot or a machine or whatever we want to call it, but without having that knowledge, you cannot be creative, because creativity passes through the knowledge of how to do it, or eventually if you have an idea and there are boundaries, technical boundaries, you can push and work with technologists to override that. That is, at least being an Italian, the roots of the Italian creativity, the Italian design industry, where the creative and the industrial people were coordinating, collaborating in the 50s to create. If we continue to pursue what, this is my personal overview, it's not polytechnical necessarily. If we could, but it's what we see is that the fashion industry is glamorous because it's a communication where you're going to be a stylist, you're going to be a fabulous people with brands and so on. But actually also the garment segment, it's not that glamorous. It's pretty tough. So if we want to solve a communication issue, applying the same, I think, discourse to textile, I'm not sure if that is being sexy in a communication way would be the right solution.
The problem is that young people do not see what are the advantages of being involved into textile production chain. So they see very well the advantages of being a fashion designer or living in this, fabulous world, as you said, but they do not see what could be and there are many advantages of working as a professional in textile sector. Sorry, I didn't want to take the time of the other speakers.
It's fine. We also let these questions to emerge as well.
So we need to tell them
absolutely.
What these
Yes.
advantages are.
Yes, absolutely. That
in a
for
very
sure.
sexy way. We need to be sexy in communication.
In communication.
Yeah. Role redefinition. Just call it something different, and all of a sudden it works.
Yeah, it's a trick. Yes.
Yeah, if someone from the audience would like to engage in the discussion, or if you have, no? Okay, I'll ask again later. Okay, so moving to, we already moved to block 2, sorry. But more in the context of education, this question goes to Chiara. Could you tell us about the challenges you encounter when integrating these design principles or digital literacy into the programs, and what is the response from the students?
Where it's connected to what I was saying, we attract a population that is a little bit already oriented toward a technical component that is a little bit higher than just aesthetics, being a polytechnical. So the promise stays in the name, but they're still very biased, but from what is on social media and communicated. So the difficulty is to make them understand that as a designer, it's not enough anymore to sit at a table where there will be an engineers or other technical persons and to tell them what you want and to check that the idea will be realized, but to make them owning the knowledge, to draft at least the solution directly, and eventually having to perfect the technical skills, or doing a cross path where you have a bachelor in design and then a specialization in engineering. So we are working very much in this cross disciplinary activities within the different programs we have, but also launching programs that are now starting since the beginning as interdisciplinary. So we work on interaction design for fashion, so fashion interaction design, where we work, again, as I said, as process-based more than thinking about the product, so that they acquire skills that 5 years ago were still in other programs and not included. They were touched, eventually getting multidisciplinary teams, but not where the fashion designer owns that skills. So this, however, requires also a revision eventually of calendars or systems, how the countries or the governmental bodies understand or designed the educational formats, because you need, for example, much more flexibility in timing. You need also understanding differently the hours of a day or of a week, or, as I was saying, also imagining different learning activities that are not necessarily academically intended. So we work with a lot of pilots and experiments involving as well companies. So working on challenge-based, and then based on those experiences, then we try to formalize something that can become an official format.
Great, thank you. Now that you mentioned the company collaboration, this brings us to the third block, which is academia-industry collaboration. And I would like to ask Troy, what strategies can further strengthen the collaboration between academic institutions and industry players, ensuring curricula remain relevant and future-proof?
The connection to the industry is this idea that most of the textile industry does not have the power, the finances to experiment anymore. You're talking about 40-year industrial processes that are set in, and to become profitable take 30 years of investment. So the role of the academia in that becomes the living lab. It becomes the place to experiment with new models, whether they're economic models, digital models, manufacturing models. You have to have institutions that are deeply aligned with your fab labs, with these places that are deeply experimental, that look at new ways of living, new ways of making, or future means of making, ways of doing it severely differently, that not only do it differently, but also look for new nomenclature. The fact that we're still calling people consumers in a sustainable age doesn't reflect what we need the person who's using the garment to do. We need them to be users and wearers who care and repair and are stewarding that garment into its second and third life. And so they have to be able to work on that level as well. So they're changing how we think about these garments in every different way, and that they're bringing those forward as exemplars and demonstrators that they can then take to the industry and take to our investment groups and say, okay, here's a new way of doing it. And we know it works because we spent 3 years, 4 years making it work inside of these institutions.
Oh, yeah, super interesting. I really agree with you on the need of changing all these names that we are using to be able to be more true to the reality, and as well to make these changes happen, and make it more attractive and evolving it a bit. So thank you for that. It was a super interesting insight. I'd like to address a question to Chelsea regarding how does stakeholder engagement transform the whole value chain, and can you share any success stories? I know you've earlier you mentioned how you act as a kind of connector between innovators, and you touch upon the whole value chain. And so I think this experience that is more from that is not very visible, I think is super interesting also to understand.
Sure, absolutely. So I think we've touched a little bit already in this conversation on the value of our manufacturing partners and how some of these less sexy jobs that happen earlier in the raw material supply chain or in the garment creation supply chain are very, very pivotal and very important to actually creating value through the system. I think from a stakeholder management perspective, I think there is obviously at times a hierarchy that needs to be disassembled in a way where you really create a space for equal voices in the room around the challenges that innovation faces when you're trying to scale. So I'm conscious we are out of time, but I will do my best to quickly wrap up. But I think for me, it's really also as a designer, recognizing that you have an equal voice in a room that is a very technical discourse. I think having the confidence through the interdisciplinary nature of education or some of these quite interesting degrees that you're describing, I think are very pivotal also to creating the right the right language that's shared so that you can actually move things forward.
Amazing. Well, I think we will call it a day, but before that, I would really like to ask you if you have any question, anything that you would like to discuss, because before we go to the lunch break. No questions? Nothing? Are you sure? You have here 6 very interesting people. So I think no one?
They look hungry.
They look hungry. Okay. Then, yeah, I would like to thank you, everyone, for attending today. I would really like to thank you, the whole Transitions Consortium, for the hard work done. I would especially thank you, my colleagues, Alejandra Conto, project manager of the Transitions Project, and Anastasia Pistofidou for their hard work and professionalism. See you during the lunch break, and I hope we can be in touch in the future. And I also hope you visit the Transitions website to get to know the results. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
And yeah, big thanks to the panelists as well.